G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to my second player profile for the 2022 preseason. It is on the trademark Touk Miller. Absolutely love this bloke as a selection and was my first selected midfielder when the team picker came out. Now what we'll do during this video is we'll start off by taking a quick look at his draft profile, talk about some of the pros, some of the cons to selecting Miller going into this year. We'll compare him to some other players from his draft class, someone like a Jack Steele, Christian Petracca. Obviously have a look at his scoring history, really focus in on what he managed to do last year. And look, as I mentioned before, there may be some potential concerns. You know, Huey Greenwood is now gone out of the side. Will opposition teams look to tag him on a more regular basis going into next season? I certainly think they will, but I'll show you some of the numbers that hopefully may alleviate some of those concerns. So hope you enjoy the video. Sit back for about 10 minutes listening to what I've got to say about Touk, and we'll start off with his draft profile. So he was selected by the Suns with pick 29 in the 2014 draft. Now age 25, so I think coming into the absolute peak of his powers. 138 games now, 178 centimeters. So he's not the biggest type of midfielder that we've ever seen. 85 kilos, but again, a pretty strong, solid, mature type body. Obviously a midfielder, and did have a wonderful season last year. You know, 2021 All-Australian. That was his first All-Australian blazer there, and also took out the Gold Coast Best and Fairest. If you look at Touk's scoring history, you can see there that he's a pretty durable type player. 22, 18, 20, 22, 18, 17, and 21. So that's a big tick in selecting Miller. We look at his averages for the first 3 years, sort of hovering around the 70s, 73, then up to 78.8, down again to 76.2. There wasn't a lot happening. We didn't see a great amount of improvement. Now, in 2018, we did see a 12 to 13 point increase there, almost at 89. Then a little dip in 2019, 84.8. But then he's had two really nice jumps. So all the way up to 105.9 in 2020, and then in 21, 124.5. So terrific average last year. And this is why this man is so expensive going into the 2022 season. He just had a phenomenal year last year. Now let's compare Touk's numbers to two other elite midfielders in his draft class. So I've got two elite midfielders of the competition here, the cement bag, Christian Petracca, and Jack the Superman Steele. So Track was selected with pick number 2 in this draft. Ouch for St Kilda supporters behind Paddy McCartan at pick number 1. But it's all good, St Kilda supporters. You did finally manage to get a hold of Jack Steele, originally selected with pick 24 by the GWS Giants. Remember, he was an academy player, so they may have got a bit of a bargain there, I think. But look, one thing that these three players all have in common is in their 6th year of football, that's when we saw a really big increase. So if we look at Jack Steele, he did have a big increase in his 2nd to 3rd year of football, 64, 64, jumped all the way up to a 91. Then he sort of hovered there for 3 years, 91, 94, and 95. And then in that 6th year of football, bang, up to a 123, which was a 28 point increase. Great to see that he also managed to back that up with a 126 as well. And Miller, well, in his 6th year of football, 21 point increase. He was coming from a lower average, that 85, as compared to a 91 and 95 with Petracca and Steele. But he went up 21 to a 106. And then we haven't seen this from either Petracca or Steele before. Consecutive increase. So 19 point increase there. That is absolutely fantastic. So in 2 years, that's what, a 40 point increase, an 85 all the way up to a 125. But look, I think one thing these blokes all have in common in their major scoring increases was a change of role. So Track from a forward to a part-time midfielder to vice versa. And both Miller and Steele seem to be relieved of their defensive tagging duties and had the license to start winning their own football. And I think both Steele and Miller are very similar in their play style as well. You know, they're tough, uncompromising, tackling beasts, both carry their side on their backs, work really hard off the football. And I think if Steele can repeat his efforts of a 120 plus average, then I think Miller can also do that too. But what we can't do is underestimate how good a 120 plus season average is. Let's compare that to some of the premier midfielders of the previous draft class. So I've got 5 players here. We've got Jelly, Bont, Cripper, Matty Crouch, and Zeret. So the first thing you'll probably notice is that none of these players have ever achieved a season average of 120 plus. One major difference is that all these players hit the 3-figure average earlier than the previous 3. And look, there've been some good blocks of consistency once you've reached 100 mark, but we've also seen some inconsistency. So you look at someone like Josh Kelly up the top, big jump, 87 up to 114. Then he followed that up, another 114, 117, 115. Bit of a down year last year with a 107. And the Bont, look at this for 2 blocks of consistency. So a really big jump from 79 to 103. What's that, a 24-point increase there. Then after the 103, follows it up, 107, 105, 104. And then a separate block, 115, 116, 119. But again, has not gone 120 for a season. Cripper, been a little bit all over the shop, 39 to a 96, 108, down to a 98, 119, 117. We think brilliant. Here is an elite midfielder that we can select in our sides. Just lock him away for the next 7 or 8 years. But unfortunately, fell off a bit of a cliff there, 98 and 83. Different reasons for that, I know. Matty Crouch, again, a little bit all over the shop. Only consistency I can really see there is at 102 to 104. 111s are the bookends of that. I suppose that's, not a huge range there. And Zeret has been consistent, but really in 3 blocks here. So we said that 1012, 109, then back down to that 100 to 106. Then last couple of years, season best averages or career best averages for seasons, 116 and a 115. So we can see that even these premier midfielders that we have had in our sides for years now have not reached that 120 mark. Can Miller back it up? That's a big question. Now, Touk Miller was a bad man last year in Supercoach. Have a look at this stretch here that I've highlighted. A 16-game effort of 30-plus possessions. We see from round 6, 36, finishes round 3 with a lovely 37. Even before that, 27, 28, close to the mark. 22 and 20 in rounds 1 and 3, a little bit lower. 31 in round 2 as well. And look at those scores. We can only see 3 scores under the ton. 96, that's still pretty commendable. And his other 2 duds were right at the start of the year. Not exactly sure what was happening there. An 80, a big 131 in between though, and then a 78. Again, hits back with a 132. And for the rest of the season, does not go below the ton after round 6. And some of these scores, we've got the 153 there, 153 again, 155, 143, 148, 142. This bloke has a massive ceiling, so he's definitely a captaincy option. We can see there with his tackle count, you got your 14, your 10, a few 9s there, your 13, another 9 and an 8. This guy loves to tackle. He's certainly not on Jack Steele levels, but a pretty close second. We know that Greenwood, probably if he was still, if he did play out the remainder of the season, he may have probably edged ahead of Miller there because I think his average is higher per game. But still, nonetheless, Greenwood's not even at the Suns anymore. So Miller will be the main tackler in the side, a contested beast. Have a look at these stats, just absolutely phenomenal. You can see the free kick against there even. We've got 1, 0, 0, 1. I won't go through them all, but a couple of games there where he gave a couple of 4s away, a couple of 3s, but also lots of 1s and lots of 0s. So he's a pretty disciplined player. You can see the free kicks 4 there. I'm not sure exactly how they match up, but I think they may even be pretty similar. So you're not losing a heap of points there either. I'd love to see a few more goal assists from Touk. That'd be really nice. Not bad with the clearances there, possibly with Greenwood out of the side. That may even improve even more. We'll just wait and see. We can't count on that. But yeah, a lovely, lovely season from Touk in 2021. Take a look at some of those scores. Now, I've certainly talked this man up so far, but it's not all ponies and lollipops and rainbows and unicorns. There are some potential cons to selecting Touk Miller. Let's have a look at them. At the top of the list, and these aren't in any particular order, well, I've got lack of speed. He's certainly not the quickest bloke that you've ever seen running around a football field, but I think that his elite work rate and endurance will certainly make up for that. Next thing is scoreboard impact, along with goal kicking accuracy. I think he booted 8 last year. Conversion rate was around 50%, so even if you could boost that up and get a goal every 2 games, that'd be really beneficial for his scoring. The next thing is obviously his high starting price. He's the 3rd most expensive midfielder that we can select in our sides this year. And I know for a fact that there'll be some people that will look at the name Touk Miller, compare it to some of the others in the top 5, and just skip him. But don't get fooled by that. He hasn't particularly got runs on the board, and that's the next con that I've got here. But just wait to some of the pros. But look, we do need to talk about this seriously. He does have a lack of runs on the board. Even when we compared him to a Jack Steele before, Steele's done it for 2 years now. We can be really confident with the Jack Steele selection that he's most likely going to get it done again. At the same time, though, there's no guarantees. We've seen what's happened to someone like a Paddy Cripps. But that is certainly one of the issues that I have with this selection, is that he doesn't have the runs on the board. He went from that, 105 type average and way up to that 125. So can he repeat that again? I certainly think that he can when we take a look at some of the reasons why in a minute. but that is something that we need to be aware of. Now, the next two things I've got here in yellow, it's a lack of midfield support and a possible tag target. So a lack of midfield support, we know that GWS don't have the strongest midfield. Lots of young blokes running through there, your Rows, your Andersons, these types of blokes. I know that Bose is probably going to be running through there this year. Still a younger type of player, but a bit more experience on the other couple that I just mentioned there. And obviously Huey Greenwood is now gone, so he finds himself at North Melbourne, as I mentioned in the intro. So that could be a little bit of a concern, but the reason why I've got it in yellow is that I've got some stats and some numbers just to show you how well Miller can score without someone like a Huey Greenwood, a bigger body in that midfield. And the other point I've got there is the tag target. So look, if I was an opposition coach, I'm looking at GWS, the Suns, and I'm looking to tag, I'm saying to myself, well, I'm going Touk Miller. He's the most damaging player. But at the same time, he has performed pretty well when opposition teams have looked to lock down on him. So they're all the cons. There may be more. Let me know if you think that there is. Let's have a look at some of the pros now. So I'll get through these points pretty quickly and then look at some numbers to provide a counter argument to the previous 2 points that I had on the con slide. So as you all know, he does have an elite work rate, is a two-way midfielder, absolute contested beast, loves to tackle, is a big accumulator. We've already seen that 16-game stretch where he went 30 plus. He's got great leadership, great loyalty. Look at the quote I've got there. I love this club so much, it's a joke. I'm not going anywhere. Really, really strong from Miller there. He's in the prime age bracket, as we mentioned before, 25 years old, certainly coming into his prime. He's durable. We've already seen that as well. Hasn't missed too many games during his career. And he's also very, very hard to tag. Check these numbers out. This is Touk v Taggers in 2021. So he got round 6, 13, 21 and 23. So played Sydney a couple of times, also Freo and Carlton. So let's have a look at these disposals. 36, 31, 34, 37 for an average of 34.5. Contested 17, 13, 12, 15, just above 14. And have a look at the uncontested. 19, 18, 22, 22 for an average just a tick above 20. And what really impresses me with that is obviously he's working really, really hard without the ball. If you're getting a really, really heavy tag, then you'd expect most of those possessions that you get to be contested. But the fact that he was receiving a tag, 19, 18 and a couple of 22s, absolutely phenomenal from Miller there. Tackle count, 9, 6, 4 and 9 for an average of 7. The free kicks against, only the 2 in 4 games. So that shows to me, again, I think I mentioned this before, really, really disciplined. And almost average a goal per game there as well. So you've got 3 out of 4 games there. What's most important for us is the Supercoach score though. So a 142, a 127, a 155 and a 148 for an overall average of 143 against Taggers. So Touk versus Taggers, absolutely no worries. If we look at last year's data now, is that going to repeat this year? Have they worked out Miller? I'm not too sure. But looking at this data from 2021, I go in pretty confident that he's not going to be locked down too hard. And opposition coaches look at this also and go, well, do you know what? It's not even worth tagging him. Let's stop someone else like your Anderson or one of these type of blokes. So Touk versus Taggers though, I haven't got a heap of concerns. And going back to one of the other major concerns that people have about selecting Miller this year, Huey Greenwood's gone. Where is his midfield support? What is this man going to do without his mate Hugh? Well, let's have a look at what he did last year. So from round 16 to 23, right on 2 months there, Touk managed to get scores of 153, 143, 120, 115, 142, 155, 103 and a 148. So the lowest score that he received was a 103 in round 22. Still managed to get 30 disposals though. But take a look at this. Like his next lowest score is a 115. Then it's a 120. So when I take a look at these numbers personally, it doesn't concern me that Hugh Greenwood isn't there. You know, I'm sure that someone like a Bose will be able to give him some support. And the younger fellas, they'll have some natural progression. They'll start to improve, I think. So the fact that Greenwood is out of the side doesn't really worry me if you take a look at what we see in front of us here. So if you can't tell by now, I am a big fan of Touk Miller. What's my verdict? Lock him in. I love this man as a selection. And hey, if you don't like him, that's all good because he's going to remain a pod for me and he will not lead my side unless there's any sort of niggles or issues during the preseason. So let me know what you think about the great man down there below in the comments section, and stay tuned for the next player profile. Should be out within the next couple of days. Take care, guys. Hope your team plan is going well. I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, bye.